Good afternoon, everyone. You should definitely all buy Anthony's book, and if you're not convinced, look at the back, because I wrote a little something on the back of the cover, which was cool. So, but hopefully everyone in here is already a huge Solana fan. I think this man needs no introduction. Jeremy Allaire with Circle, he's the founder and CEO. They had the top performing IPO of the year, which is super exciting, not just for crypto, but across the board. And we only have a few minutes, so we will dive right into the questions. So it's been a big year. You IPO'd, we had the passage of the Genius Act. It seems now that something is different. Are we at an inflection point? Have we hit our mainstream moment?
Yeah, this is, it's a question that I've been asked for about 12 years. Like, when is this going to be mainstream? And along the way, I've always talked about, several things that were necessary. So some of it is technology, some of it is product execution, some of it is legal, basically. And I think, those three were, hey, we need the technology to actually be at a point where it can scale, where it can support great user experiences, where in some ways the crypto infrastructure of it all could move into the background and people just experience better utility. And my view was actually, in particular, over the last year or two, like we were hitting that. We're increasingly hitting that. And so that was like very positive. Not 100% there, but really making great progress. And so that's sort of the infrastructure and UX side. But the third piece was, we need to kind of move this new system of monetary infrastructure and literally a new form factor of money to be legal, and to legalize it and enshrine it in the laws of the financial system everywhere in the world. And now we've done that. And that is just truly extraordinary. And I mean, the Genius Act itself was 5 years of work, as you know. The stablecoin bill was like 5 years of work. And what landed is actually pretty close, but like obviously some changes along the way. But that's an incredible moment. And so we now have this kind of legal framework, and covered stablecoins like USDC can be treated essentially as a new form of M1 electronic money in the dollar global financial system, fully reserved, very safe, with, I think, the right kind of safeguards around them, supervised by national banking regulators and the like. So all of this combined, those were the things that I was always looking for, and we hit those. And I think the market was experiencing its own organic growth, and obviously Circle's IPO, I think, was a catalyst in other ways. And all of a sudden, like, yes, this is very clearly the inflection point that we've all been waiting for. And for us, it's been this extraordinary expansion of major companies that are actually now trying to build and invest in this. There's still lots of work to do. But like the other point, though, is that, well, what does it mean to have an inflection point to the mainstream? Is that right now the market for digital assets, stable coins, tokenization, smart contract-based finance and applications is tiny. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little market. And the TAM is obviously extraordinary. And not only is the existing TAM extraordinary, but the internet tends to make TAMs multiply. And so the multiplier effect of this is huge. And so I, as I said to every investor that we talked to when we went public, is Circle's an early stage company. This is an early stage market. You need to be thinking about this over the next 10 to 15 years at a minimum. And that's exciting. That's like, for anyone here who's building, like, that's incredibly exciting to know that we have that in front of us.
No, I think you and I were both at the White House for the signing ceremony of the Genius Bill, and I think it was actually 6 years in the making, because Congress started talking about it when Libra,
Libra. And that was the genesis of the Libra hearings. Yes. Yeah. But we actually built something.
It takes a lot of time in the U.S. to do that. But no, I do think that was a critical moment. But obviously we have things going on in the EU. Here in the UAE, there have been a lot of progress on the regulatory front. Do you think in sort of a post-Genius world that we've kicked off a global race? Because there is a natural tension there sort of between the dollar being exported around the world and what other countries might do. How are you looking at it from a global perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I never thought that, building a business in this space, building a business in this space has this intersection of geopolitics and geoeconomics, as well as changing law and fascinating technology, and it's pretty interesting. But I thought for a long time that eventually, when this sort of got to this moment, right, that governments around the world were gonna wake up and be like, whoa, what does this mean for us? And I think it's similar to other epochs of the internet, where kind of the internet as an infrastructure swept over communications and media and content and software and commerce and all these other industries, and now it's sweeping over the financial system, and governments are having to react. And there's geopolitical considerations, there's monetary and fiscal policy considerations, and then there's just how do you regulate the sector. But I do think it is now accelerating. We're seeing more governments at every level, like every government in the world, frankly, is now actively working on policy in this space, actively trying to figure out how to deal with dollar stablecoins, how to deal with local stablecoins, how to deal with digital assets more broadly, how to make it work with the fact that this is an internet scale phenomenon. This is not, there's not the Kazakhstan blockchain and the Kazakhstan thing. Everyone's in a global economic system. And so I think it's an exciting time to work through those issues, but I think, it's going to require some very significant changes in fiscal and monetary policy for countries around the world over the long run.
I want to talk about Solana for a second, because we're at a Solana conference. I think I've told you this before, but it was actually your son, who I was working with in my prior life at the Blockchain Association, who every day would come to the office and talk about Solana, which I assume he got from you. I don't know he got that from you, but he was a huge Solana bull. I should have listened to him back then.
It was $1 back then.
It was $1 back then, yes. But, Circle was very early in building on Solana. And I think, you've been one of the big advocates for the ecosystem. Where is Circle today with Solana, and where are you guys going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, we got introduced to the team by the multi-coin guys, thank you, and got to know Toli and Raj very early. And actually, it was right at that time. It was in 2000. I think it was in 2000, and we were just starting to think about how to bring USDC onto other chains. And we were very focused on, to the other comment, like how do we get on a higher performance, more scalable infrastructure that's like made for financial applications, payment applications, et cetera. And we're super impressed with what we were seeing, and the team and the speed and everything. And we had one other chain that we launched before Solana, but we had a contract in place to do that, and so we did it. But like Solana was the next one, and I would say it's been a huge investment theme for us. And I know we work with a lot of projects in the ecosystem as well. And I would say when you look at on-chain transaction volume of USDC, actually the on-chain transaction volume on Solana dominates all other chains. And the maturation of the infrastructure is just making this more and more compelling. We're seeing more and more major consumer-facing and merchant-facing platforms adopting USDC on Solana as a primary infrastructure. So, I mean, we're thrilled with what's happened. I mean, look at this. Like, this is pretty awesome. And I think, for us, we keep launching more and more infrastructure. There's obviously native USDC. We're building more and more protocols for cross-chain infrastructure. CCTP becomes a really key infrastructure for how liquidity can move between different networks and Solana, which is important. We have wallet developer tools and other things for Solana devs. And we have something that we've talked about coming soon, which is something called Gateway. And Gateway, I think, is going to be really, really powerful. It's a permissionless protocol that will run on Solana. It lets people have essentially a unified balance where they have essentially a USDC balance, and they don't need to think about like what chain it's on. And it may be if you're in like a Solana wallet or whatever, you can hold it. But if you're in a wallet that has different support for different networks, you don't actually have to have balances on different networks anymore. You can just have a single unified balance, and then you can do sends and spends to any network on gateway with minting on the other network in less than a second. And so to the UX problem and to dealing with capital efficiency and cross-chain liquidity, it's a huge step. And so that's something we're rolling out soon. And actually, when that rolls out, it gives us tools to build deeper commercial partnerships with firms and projects in the Solana ecosystem. So stay watching for that.
Final question. We only have 2 minutes left. You've spoken a lot about the intersection of blockchain and AI. What is your vision there?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of experimentation happening with agentic payments and sort of enabling AI to consume and transact with stablecoins. Obviously, doing that on an infrastructure like Solana is very great because of the speed and capital efficiency and low fees. But I would step back and just sort of say, what I'm doing at least, and we're doing at Circle, is we're thinking about 3 to 5 years from now. In 3 to 5 years, if you look at the arc of what's happening with AI, and you just kind of continue to extrapolate that over 3 to 5 years, it's not unrealistic to imagine that in that period, that there will be hundreds of millions, if not billions, of agentic agents basically working continuously on behalf of people and institutions. And there'll be institutions that are all operated by AI as well. And in a world like that, we need new infrastructure models to support the economic activity of that. And so AI infrastructure, AI agents, and the like will be performing more and more of the economic activity of the world. And so we need to marry that with blockchain network infrastructure like Solana. And so my own view is we need to be designing towards that future. This isn't just about how do you do high frequency trading better. This is about all economic activity in the world coming on chain in a world where effectively AI is intermediating and executing a huge amount of work. And last thing I'll say with 10 seconds left is the internet, as new infrastructures and new utilities come online, has a tendency to unlock kind of multiple orders of magnitude increases in output in whatever the thing it is, whether that's communications or information published or media or software published. And my own view is that this is going to lead to probably many orders of magnitude, maybe a 1,000,000x increase in the amount of transactions that happen in the world, and we need to get ready for that. So,
well, I know it's been a wild ride over the past several years, but it sounds like it's going to be incredibly interesting going forward. Congratulations on your milestones this year, and thank you for joining us at Breakpoint today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristin. Thanks, everyone.